Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the Bubb Report for 2024. I am your humble host, Dr. Kellen Bubb. Now, the inspiration behind this program is a simple one. We try to hold the powerful to account by asking the relevant and tough questions like no other interviewer can in Grenada. We invite everyone on this platform to engage in meaningful, thoughtful, intellectually stimulating, and honest conversations on the issues that matter to Grenada, its diaspora, and of course the wider Caribbean. Hosting this weekly show can sometimes be even more difficult than you might expect, especially when one is attempting to ventilate all sides of an issue in a dispassionate fashion. There are many guests, scores of guests in fact, who decline to appear on this platform because it is felt that some of the issues that we confront are too sensitive for them to publicly verbalize. Now join the Bubb Report for the next 60 minutes as we highlight some of the big stories we covered in 2024. But before we get into turning the pages of this year, we pause to pay tribute to some remarkable Grenadian and Caribbean sons and daughters who transitioned in 2024. The Bubb Report especially remembers the late, great broadcast journalist, Lou Smith, who was a mentor of mine. May these souls rest in peace, and may their memories be a blessing. Now, at the start of the year, the government of Grenada reshuffled the cabinet of ministers by welcoming the Honorable Delma Thomas into the fold of the executive as Minister for Mental Health and Wellness, and axing Ron Redhead as Minister for Youth and Sports. Later in the year, Senator the Honorable Jonathan Lecret, of course, former Senator of the Honorable Jonathan Lecret, who was assigned the portfolio of Youth and Sport, was fired from the cabinet of ministers and is now a political free agent in the St. George Northwest constituency. The Honorable Delma Thomas has since taken up the portfolios of ministers in the ministries of youth and sport, respectively.
It was very important. We learned significant lessons and we built a team, and we are still a team. So I want to reiterate that I still remain the Member of Parliament for St. George Northeast, fully committed, not just to party, but certainly to country, and will still continue to do my part to ensure that we move Grenada forward.
And as the Minister for Youth and Sports pointed out, if we need youth in agriculture, youth in leadership, we need to ensure that the youth has a strong academic educational background to do so. And I think Minister, I'll have to call him former Minister now, former Minister, but MP Redhead is leading by example.
You know,
yes,
my jaw almost dropped in that we have to dig deeper than that. You know, I believe that the whole shenanigans of the cabinet reshuffle was, in other words, a means and a way to fire Ron Redhead from the cabinet. I do believe that it is true that in lots of government in the US, in Grenada, you serve in the cabinet at the pleasure of the Prime Minister or the President. Now, to make this suggestion that he is going to do his master's or study, I mean, how many times this have been run by us, and you look at it. But when you look at it, is it because of the behavior of Ron Redhead in the last 18 months? And I ask the question, are there other people within the ministers whose behavior is probably worse than Ron Redhead? So is it this just the beginning of what we might see as a shifting tide?
Now, the first quarter of 2024 also opened with a colossal man-made disaster less than 90 miles away from Grenada on the coastline of Tobago. The offshore oil spill prompted the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to declare a national emergency in February. The spill, which was at one time was set on a course to probably reach Grenadian territorial waters, eventually made its way to the shores of the Dutch colony of Bonaire, hundreds of miles away. Farley Augustine, the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, joined the Bubb Report to discuss the scope and impact of this disaster.
So, and it's a mixture of several things that's happening. We have the booming efforts to contain. We have the extraction happening as another task. We have the beach cleanups happening. We have wildlife rescue and rehabilitation happening 24/7 as well. We have quite a bit of ground logistics because we're talking about not just containment and extraction and cleaning the beaches, but also managing the waste and securing the waste as well, so that we are not just dumping this product any and everywhere. And of course, while we're doing all of that, we are constantly having the EGA doing some reconnaissance for us, which is what we use to develop the oil trajectory map. And so that mapping activity tells us almost daily where the escaped fuel-like substance is heading. And that's how we knew that some of it is actually passing through Grenadian territorial waters as we speak. We don't believe it will make landfall in Grenada because it's passing south of Grenada.
Award-winning nomination and award. Grenada, and in particular Carriacou, beamed with pride as their very own Davon Alexis won an Emmy for his role as assistant editor for his work in a Black Lady sketch show.
Sunday, I had to travel to LA for the event, and it was, oh wow, it was that was a lot. That was a lot of like information overload, like so many people, or seeing different stars that you know and see on TV standing right there, like because their shows are up for a Creative Arts Emmy, and just being a part of being in the room and seeing people who you worked with growing up, or people you've talked to before growing up to receive their award, or just hanging out and just talking about editing and all, and just life in general. It's a really incredible feeling.
In February, Grenada celebrated its 50th anniversary of political independence with a series of events, including a military parade and cultural activities. The island also played host to a drone show, the first of its kind in the OECS, that highlighted some of the island's major accomplishments over the last 50 years.
You heard our parents used to say Uncle Gary made them wear panties. And people laugh at that. And that is such a strong political and social statement that they were making. Not they were walking without, but at the time their wages were so meager, they could not afford to go into the store and buy a nylon panty. They were using the flour bags. When the merchants import the flour from England, they came in cotton. They were using that, scrubbing it with a corn stick and making the sliders and the bloomers for men and drawers for themselves. It was not until that glorious revolution in 1951 when they said the price will rise, they mean their pay will rise. And they were able to get better wages and they start going into the stores and buying the same nylon panty like Massa used to wear. That is where that slogan came from.
Even on Keith Mitchell, I mean, I've heard you have to give him that in terms of the infrastructure development. It has been immense under the NFP. So I think we have to recognize the thing about it is, the longer I live, I realize this. Nation building is a human endeavor. It's a human process. It's a human endeavors, right? There'll be it will never be perfect, right? It will never be perfect. But I think that basically we have been blessed with leaders who, generally speaking, all have their shortcomings, but generally speaking, I think they have the interests of the country at heart.
On the heels of Grenada's independence celebrations, however, the island was rocked by the high-profile kidnapping and gruesome murder of Ralph Hendry and Kathy Brandale. The American couple went missing from the yacht that was anchored off Pandy Beach in the south of the island. They were kidnapped and murdered by 3 escaped prisoners from the South St. George police station. The murder accused made their way to St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the stolen yacht Simplicity, where they were recaptured in the village of Petit Bordel on St. Vincent's northwest coast, and they were eventually extradited to Grenada to face multiple murder and kidnapping charges.
We have not been able to identify specifically where the bodies were thrown overboard. Yeah? And that presents a challenge. Hence the reason why we sought the assistance of the RSS, the air wing, to do some flying for us. And that has not yielded any fruits in terms of the discovery of the bodies. When the Coast Guard would have gone out, they would have even done some diving. It has not yielded any positive results.
So, are you saying then that the suspects gave you a good indication as to where they threw the victims' bodies overboard?
Without going too much into details,
yes, sir.
As I said, they have been cooperating, and an attempt has been made to try and narrow as far as practicable the area where this incident took place, and some effort has been made, but unfortunately, as regards to up to this time, we have not retrieved the bodies.
The Royal Grenada Police Force also came under scrutiny for their failure to keep these prisoners at bay at the South St. George police station.
Mr. Coven, stop beating around the bush. Were SSU and RRU people there? There was a protocol put in place by Commissioner Bido. Were SSU and RRU people there at that Grenville station when the murder accused escaped? Stop beating around the bush.
I am not beating around the bush, Mr. Wong. Whenever we come to a press conference, we come to say what we know as a fact. I don't believe any one of us sitting here has any preconceived intention to mislead the public or mislead the media on any issue whatsoever.
Did you give instructions for them to be there or not?
Mr. Wong, my answer remains what it is.
Stop ducking.
I'm not ducking, Mr. Wong. I don't think it is prudent for me to discuss these type of security issues like on forums like these.
Did you fail us? Should we have continued to have confidence in you?
Well, Mr. Wong, please. You are sounding like there's an attack on the Assistant Commissioner of Police.
Now in May, the government of Grenada announced a firearms amnesty that ended in July of this year. The aim of the amnesty was to lessen the potential for the commission of violent crimes and firearms-related incidents by reducing the number of firearms and ammunition that were circulating and still may be circulating illegally in the state of Grenada. In 2024, Grenada witnessed an uptick in gun crimes, which prompted legislators to pass stricter gun laws in June. The issue was hotly debated on this program.
Yeah, so I understand Mr. Ferguson has this rule. And frankly, if I commit a crime, the first lawyer I'm going to run to will be Ruggles. If I commit a crime, the first person I would need Mr. Ruggles' help.
Well,
So
yes, of course.
I am not putting it down.
Give you the 10-year mandatory minimum.
The mandatory.
You will do what is expected to do. No, you will do
within the liberal order. Within the liberal order that you just critiqued, Mr. Humphrey.
No. Well, this is a light movement, but to be serious. To be serious. Again, I repeat, I give 110 support to this government on the measures that it has initially taken. This in itself wouldn't. It has to go further. It has to introduce into the toolkit. It has to reclassify murder and murder at the point of a gun. Murder at the point of a gun, in my view, should be a capital offense of the most serious type. It shouldn't be no non-capital murder. So so going into the criminal code has to be now dealt with deeper. And I would advocate that we have a plebiscite on the restoration of the death penalty.
We have a constitution that says you are entitled to the presumption of innocence. And I know my good friend and comrade always preaches law and order. But we can't preach law and order when it's convenient to us. It's across the board. We have a constitution that says you are entitled to the presumption of innocence until you either plead guilty or you're proven guilty by a competent court established by law. That's Section 8 of the Constitution. And the constitutional mandate must always be upheld.
Also in the year under review, Grenada's Planning and Development Authority partnered with stakeholders in other ministries to undertake a comprehensive demolition drive that was meant to remove illegal structures along the nation's roadsides. The demolition drive was part of the unit's visual transformation initiative. The drive was met with, however, with significant resistance from some vendors who ply their trade on Port Highway. One vendor made her cause known on the Bubb Report.
In that notice, there was nothing in the notice that said, and we will be relocating you. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it would make sense to knock us all down and then say, we'll get back to you after we build the building, which may be a year. So in the meantime, the livelihoods of myself and all my colleagues would be unemployed. Well, I'm in the process of looking for someone to appeal it for me. Mm-hmm. It does state in the letter that we can appeal it before the 28th. But then again, that costs money. So you're talking to people who are, challenging financially.
Now, the much hyped return of the Grenada Invitational was not to be, as organizers abruptly canceled the event, owing to what they cited as a lack of support from local corporate and government sponsors. Dexter Mitchell, who appeared on this platform, billed the event as a major highlight for Grenada. However, fans were left disappointed that some of their favorite athletes were not on display at the Karani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's.
But to me, we've already made big announcements. Our past Olympians are going to be here. Our present Olympians are competing. Whatever else comes after that is gravy. We are in the middle of our 50th anniversary of independence. It's going to be a grand sporting celebration. 40 years of participation in the Olympics, 50 years as an independent nation. I can see. I don't see any reason why you need to wait on any more announcements.
They've waited too long to, of course, drop this press release, and many of the people that our team would have reached out today, I know Gerard Morris Seeley, one of our producers here and presenters at Sportsmax, has been calling around Lance to try to get people to come on the show to, of course, shed some light, give our viewers the opportunity to know what really happened. Because for me, when things happen and they're not very clear, it causes a lot of he say, she say confusion. And I think this is one of those situations. What I get from the press release, for good. This might be the end of it for good, based on the wording of it. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but that's the sense that I'm getting. And to me, a lot of athletes will suffer because this is one of the invitational meets that we've seen some of the best talents come through. Of course, we've seen them develop. We've seen them rise. Names like, I mean, you listed a couple, but Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Kirani James. So for me, it's disappointing, but not just disappointing, but in so many different levels.
Now, Hurricane Beryl, the earliest Category 4 storm to hit the Caribbean, struck Grenada and its dependencies, as well as the Grenadine islands of Union Island, Mairo, and Canawan in July. The hurricane's damage to water, power, communications, logistics, health infrastructure, shelters, and agriculture was nothing short of devastating. Virtually every structure on Carriacou and Petite Martinique, and on Union Island, Canawan, and Mairo in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, respectively, sustained debilitating damage, driving thousands of people to storm-battered shelters or barely functioning alternative homes. We covered the build-up to and the aftermath of the hurricane, which continues to impact the national community. Here are some of the highlights.
With Beryl, and this is where the whole nation now have to be extremely careful. With Beryl, we now have hurricane force winds extending like 30 miles from the center. Okay, 30 miles from the center. Okay, and we now have tropical storm force winds. And when we say tropical storm force winds, we mean winds of around 45 miles an hour, extending 115 miles from the center. So, Kellen, you could understand, Grenada is what, about 23 miles long, and about, I think it's about between 12 and 15 miles wide. So this radius that we're looking at, 125 miles, encompasses the entire Tri-Island state. Yeah. So really and truly, there is no safe place on the island for anyone not to be affected. Okay? So this is something we all have to be careful of. And of course, we were talking about sustained winds. There would be gusts in various areas, and there would be some stronger pockets due to some localized conditions.
This morning, and I like the trio you have assembled because it gives us an opportunity to span the USA from the south all the way up to the north. And with the information as well as the responses that we've been receiving, we should be able to share quite a bit this morning.
Yes, in April, I visited Grenada for the first time in many years. All right, I left home when I was 11. It's been like 54 years since I left home. So I enjoyed myself tremendously. My concern was the dryness in Grenada, but when I returned and I saw that the hurricane was, the storm at the time was forming off of the coast of Africa, and it looked like it wasn't going to turn, my concerns grew tremendously because, coming off the sandstorm off of Africa, it's powerful as it is. And then when the weather start reporting, yes, now it's a tropical storm, and it's gaining intensity, and it would not turn, my heart already started to leap because I saw the path that they had projected, and prayers, tremendous prayers, enough prayers. It's like, please turn, please just stay in the ocean. But once it started to gain intensity and literally speed, because it was actually moving very fast.
Yeah.
My heart,
Yeah.
I just saw Grenada right there. And as the ambassador said, Ivan, I never experienced a hurricane, but Ivan, memories started to come back. And it seemed like as if, my God, why this tiny island again?
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
In September, the government of Grenada was obligated to return to Parliament to seek approval for a $269 million EC dollars supplementary budget, which was sought in part to fund the recovery from Hurricane Beryl. The supplementary budget was not passed with opposition support. In fact, members of the opposition walked out of Parliament during the debate on this supplementary estimation. And its contents were, of course, criticized by the opposition. And also, a team of experts on this platform had some concerns about the large sum that the government was proposing to spend in a short period of time.
I do not believe that we have that manpower, the quality of manpower to drive this process. I do not believe so. Yes. And I see, well, let me go through this. I picked up 4 ministries.
Yes.
For which I believe there should be serious concern. Let us look at the MIT allocation. Yeah? Give me couple minutes.
Yes, and that is on what page? Because I do want our viewers to follow as well. Well, but that's okay. I will put it up on my end here.
You have $8 million for rehabilitation and construction of small roads in 6 parishes. You have 20 roads. Yeah? $8 million for 20 roads. Unless you want to violate the rules, which says that anything above $100,000 must go out to tender. The process because each road will cost more than $100,000 a year. Will you bypass the tendering process in order to fast track? You're breaking your law. So something end right there, because remember, the limit is 100. You move from 15,000, which I think was ridiculous, to $100,000. But yes, now you're going beyond. So how will you do? You have to tender. The tendering process takes time, so it won't happen. So don't expect that to happen unless I would like to know, will there be a tendering process for those routes? Yeah.
Yes.
The Beryl response comes in about under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. There is what is called Beryl response. There is what is called a housing response, and you have something in the what is clearly identified as Beryl response is about $21 million. Then there is the question of farm access, and we don't know if farm access has to do with clearing roads in the normal course of things, or clearing roads to get to people's lands in the mountain areas and so on. For farm access, you have $215 million allocated there. I don't know if there are duplications of one or the other, right? Or if the whole amount allocated for farm access is $30 million. If it is $30 million, it is a lot of money. and Boson is probably correct. Maybe the tendering process don't apply in that because it may be regarded as emergency or disaster relief or whatever it is. Then there's a section under housing where you have 15 and 4 is 19 and 8, $27 million allocated there. And then there is what is identified as relief. And relief could mean anything from clearing roads, pest control, right? Ratification, de-ratification and stuff like that. You have 10 and 2, 12 and 30 and 3.8. So that is 42 and 3 is $45.8 million allocated there. When you add up all of these 4 sections, you are coming up close to $150 million. That appears to be direct Beryl response in one form or the other. So I can't tell you what is duplication or not. What is not clear is exactly what is forward.
Carnival 2024 was also held in the shadows of Hurricane Beryl. And naturally, the build-up to Spice Mass 2024 was not as exciting as previous years. Like all carnivals before it, there were some controversies that affected its successes, and those were well ventilated on this program.
You have to understand that you are producing a product that is out there for the world. You have visitors from all over the world, okay? Everybody has to put their hands on deck to get the job done. I went to some events and logistics was there. I remember being told to come to Queen Show for 3 o'clock. Okay? Being told that everybody has to be there for 3 o'clock. Show up at 3 o'clock and there's not even a tent in sight. Okay? Now the excuse that I got was that, oh, well, there was pre-day and so forth. That is bullshit. If you as the corporation give pre-day a license to have an event and you know the event is going to finish at 6 or 7 in the morning, you get your act together and have your stakeholders or your suppliers ready to move at 7 or 8 in the morning. I'm so tired of the excuse. And you want to know something? We're wasting time here because the logistics person may still be the logistics person next year. People have to be held accountable. We didn't know there was a crisis in the stadium. From the first day, you should have realized that there was an issue in the stadium. Who was called? When were they called? Okay, toilets are issue. Were porta potties put in place? No. Logistics is key. And we're operating like we're running a little shop on the side of the road.
If they care enough about the product and if they care enough about the critics and the criticism, that they need to step in and say, okay, that formula is not working. I cannot take an executive member of the NDC who is based in New York and put on the Spice Mass Corporation board just because of her political affiliation. Let us get the people. And I think Karen mentioned younger people, people who are vested, people who are actually spending money in Carnival to make Carnival happen. Let us get some of those people involved. Where are the consultations? Where are the conversations about how do we improve? We need to have a major conversation about what happens on Carnival Monday and Tuesday. From
also,
to Monday Night Mass, to Parade of the Bands.
Transparency is the word, because everything seems to be happening in a black box and nobody knows what's happening. And speaking of like, you guys had the experience of having to apply for the CEO, right, position where it was advertised. I had a similar experience here where I reached out to apply to stream because my business also does streaming. I applied, I reached out, I said, hey, I see we are doing Spice Mass NYC launch. What is the process for me to apply? Because I know there has to be a request for proposal, right? A RFQ. Usually I apply for a lot of opportunities right here in New York City to work for the government. And typically when governments do things like that, you put a request for proposals. Hey, we have this job. We're looking to see who has the best proposal to do this thing. And when I reached out to the person in charge, they said, hey, I'm sorry, but we gave it to XYZ. That was the word. And when I challenged that, I was met with pretty much I'm being disrespectful. Why am I coming at them at that, like that? So this is somebody I worked with in the past, reached out to and said, hey, I see this is happening. What is the process for me to apply? Not, hey, I want dibs, or hey, we are friends. What is the process to apply? And what I was told is, hey, we already gave it to that person because we have worked with that person in the past. And it wasn't even on the SMC. It was on the, you guys should know the rest, because, so I know there is no transparency, and I know there is a lot of, what's the word, cronyism, nepotism, whatever way we go. And I think that is what you see is affecting the end product.
Your predecessors have called for your resignation owing to what some have viewed as a colossal failure on the part of the corporation to execute what has come to be known as a Stellar Carnival product. Would you be handing your resignation to the Minister of Culture tomorrow, sir?
No, I will not. I will not. And it's okay. I mean, we all have our opinions, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But you know, I've heard the numerous, should I say, cry from different people. But I just think so much emphasis for most parts is spent on what people see as, in some case, you know, challenges or failures, which quite frankly, I don't agree with. And I think most significantly, there's so many positives that I can attest to, having been in the office just over 1 year. Came in last year just before Carnival. So although I'm there 1 year, it's my second Spice Mass. And quite frankly, there's a list of positives that I think need to be highlighted. And I would endeavor to do that during this discourse. And quite frankly, you know, I didn't hear much of the predecessors on the program this morning, but from the little I've heard, almost everything that is said there that may come across as a negative, I can in fact, you know, have my discussion and help educate the public as to what happened. So for example, I heard of the promises that I made, and I do remember them. And for most part, we spoke about things like start time, and I could go through that in detail, event by event, if need be. We spoke about the whole question of the importance of traditional mass, and I heard it mentioned again. But what I heard wasn't the positive aspects of traditional mass as they happen. So I am ready and willing to go and have the discussion.
The Bubb Report hosted several episodes on the ongoing and burning issue of pension reform in Grenada. The government's proposed reform plan, which was eventually passed in Parliament at the end of the year, mandates that non-established public officers contribute up to 3% of their salaries into a contributory and transferable pension scheme. The state held a series of public consultations on this contributory pension scheme, but doubts still remain as to its constitutionality. All of these issues were also ventilated on the Bubb Report. Yes.
These numbers, and as I say, from sitting here, it's never been communicated, which is a style of this government, I must say. All that should be done in discussions with the union. So I sitting here don't know where these 300 workers come from. There was no agreement or decision as to when, how, etc. So we hear it in the news, like everybody else, like you, Dr. Bob, hear it in the news, which is absolutely not proper, first of all. Secondly, I want to say, because the minister indicated that she doesn't understand where the contention and friction is coming from. Let me just say, you yourself, Dr. Bob, observed that there was no booing at the May Day celebrations of the minister this year.
The second time in many years.
Hold on.
Madam Minister, let him finish. Madam Minister, let him finish, please.
So put it this way. You have to say the government is relatively new and they're getting somewhat of a pass. But our duties as unions being paid to represent workers, is to hold the persons that be, and we see the government not as political entities, but as employers in what I'm speaking about now. We have to hold them accountable for whatever the workers are dissatisfied with.
In engaging in pension reform, all of the conventional wisdom and the advice suggests that to proceed after regularization with the scheme that we have now, that was not designed for a 4,000, 7,000, 8,000 strong, is going to be economically unsustainable, right? Now, unlike our predecessors, we are doing something. We are going to fix it. The people, the 4,000 plus people who are already in this system, confirmed in the service, we cannot interfere with their pension rights. And that's the advice that I have given to my government as Attorney General. Because when you examine the Section 92 and the Pension Act, we can't interfere with the people who are already confirmed in the service. So we will have to continue paying the pension until all of these people are cleared out. The actuaries, the specialists have told us it will take about 60 years based on the youngest person confirmed. So the old pension scheme will be with us for the next 60 or so years, where government will be paying all the pension. But we don't want to leave the other 4,700 people without a pension, as the previous administration has done. We need to design a scheme so that everybody will live comfortably on retirement. And so what we are proposing is in line with modern realities and will be more sustainable, where government as employer makes a contribution and the employee makes a contribution. And at the end of the day, on retirement or on leaving the service, the employee benefits from the pension scheme.
The issue here is, whom does the existing pension regime apply, and to whom will the new one apply? And that's really Section 3 of the bill, because the question of contract workers and employees, which is not a concept in the Constitution, is being utilized quite heavily. And it's confusing. I don't understand the wording because it's not very well drafted or thought out. And maybe I'm just not clever enough, but nevertheless, it is problematic. Constitution is being circumvented by utilizing this process. If someone is coming in on a temporary basis to fill a gap while someone is off sick on maternity leave, or there's a particular project to be carried out, which will take a year or two, that's fair enough. But where you have someone like nursing staff nurse category A, which is a permanent job, and you employ somebody on contract to fill that job, that's unconstitutional because it's attempting to circumvent Section 84 of the Constitution. So these employees, depending who they are, on a contractual basis are governed by this new legislation. So the contract workers that the government made this song and dance about, and that the previous administration tried to remove from the system, are by this bill being removed from the existing pension rights guaranteed by Section 92 of the Constitution by ordinary legislation, playing games with the English language. And that's what that section is, in my view.
We have been making those statements publicly for the last year and a half. We are not averse as a union. We cannot be in discussing how we cover workers who are not presently covered. But have we been given the opportunity to fully ventilate and to discuss and to share our ideas? And the resounding answer is no. In fact, I was just looking through my email as we were sitting here this morning and looking at emails, a flurry of emails between July and August of this year, where we were planning with the DPA and PS Lindona Marshall to have a whole day session, a 1 day session, not 1 hour, not 1 hour and everybody's busy and picking up their bags to leave, but a session where we could fully ventilate this issue and look at it in all its moving parts. We were not given that opportunity as a sovereign union. And let's remember, we were not offered that opportunity by government. We foisted ourselves. We inserted ourselves into the process by repeatedly and consistently going before government. When we had that meeting, and I was not a part of it, that Dr. Gilchrist refers to with our lawyers, it was after our union wrote to the DPA, failed to secure any meetings at all. They would come to us and say, yes, the meeting is going to happen. It's going to happen today. Then it's pushed back to a week. And then after a while, it was not going to happen at all. Then our lawyers had to write a letter. That is how the attorneys that he referred to came into that meeting, because we had to go to the route of getting legal counsel to write to the DPA to say we have a right to be heard. So it was not an easy process or a seamless process, and it was not a process where our union was given the opportunity to fully and properly consult. But let's go back to the point that Dr. Jimmy Bristol is making. Our union also, part of our contention is that our hard work restored constitutional pensions in March 29 of 2022. The NDC administration came into office and paid pensions on the basis of a constitutionally restored pension. Now, 1958, I think it's section 91 thereabouts, I'm not the legal mind here, makes provision and provides room for changes in existing pension legislation. But it says to you that no new scheme put forward should be any less favorable to a worker. And furthermore, that a worker should have the right to choose which pension he wants to be covered under should there be another pension. Let us go a little further to elaborate on the point that Jimmy made. In the proposed pension bill that was passed, there is a preamble that refers to independent contractors working with government. Dr. Bubb, people of Grenada, no person who works with the government in a continuous manner, as described and articulated in our labor code, can be an independent contractor with government.
Health was also a big news item this year, with the public continuing to express a lack of confidence in hospital services in Grenada. Several neonatal deaths is said to have occurred at the General Hospital that raised concerns about the state of medical care in Grenada. We hosted a team of healthcare advocates to get to the bottom of it all.
We have gone past the stage of master planning and we are now in the stage of masterful working. And this is where we are taking the hospital services and medical services here in Grenada. Now, the Mount Sinai International is a leading academic medical center, right? They have been involved in consultancy services, and they have lent their expertise to a number of hospitals, healthcare facilities and systems, and government agencies across the world. So we are basically attracting the very best globally to partner with us in this initiative to transform and modernize our healthcare services here in Grenada. So this partnership really is what is going to begin to help us to implement the transformative measures that must be taken to take the service delivery to a higher level.
So let us talk about the specific terms of reference. What will they be looking at, given the current specific challenges that are confronting the hospital? Is it going to be a culture shift? Is it going to be how medical supplies are procured? Is it going to be coming up with a pricing structure? Because, of course, we do have legislation on the book that ought to have statutorized the General Hospital already. And that has existed on the books for a long time. I'm not too sure why it was not implemented by previous regimes. But what will be the specific ways in which their involvement would say that perhaps, and it may not be in a year, but in perhaps the next 5 years that we can look back to say, okay, Mount Sinai's involvement got us in points A, B, and C in respect of where we are for healthcare?
Okay. So first of all, we must first appreciate that we're not in the best place as far as healthcare service delivery is concerned, right? And so the partnership with Mount Sinai will definitely aid us in moving to that next level. Now, the first step towards all of this is to appreciate exactly where we are. And that is why that gap analysis to determine what works and what could work better and what does not work at all, that must be properly determined. And after we are able to determine that, then we can move to the next step, right? So there's quite a lot to be done, but we must appreciate where we are. And this is basically where we are at this point in time. But coming out of this, we expect to leverage the expertise, the knowledge, the experience of Mount Sinai International. Now, so we must implement some management changes. Now, in any organization where you want to see, where you're trying to transform the organization, there must be an evaluation of the culture of the organization. How do we do business around here? How do we meet our mission, our goals, our objectives? How do we do things? We must also determine what the history of the organization entails and look also at the management style, how this organization has been governed. What is the governance structure? And how can that structure be improved?
I listened to the minister and Sister Daisy on the statutorization topic. Now, it has some level of authority for the workers at the hospital at all levels, because they are not sure exactly what it means to their job security. And remember, we are already working in a very stressful environment, and to be combated by being unsure of what exactly it means for us. That's why we're not against with any policy that will benefit workers or benefit the public. This is what we want. We want to be able to provide quality health care for our persons that are here, the persons who come from a diaspora on a daily basis sometimes. So we're not against that. We just want to know exactly what it entails, what it means for the workers in terms of what the rules and regulations that would guide them and support them. We have a lot of uncertainty surrounding job security, because yes, we did hear that our nurses and doctors are not going to be regularized because of the whole statutorization process. And we find that we're just getting, just being treated unfairly throughout the years. We've had police officers getting appointments, a permanent appointment, teachers getting a permanent appointments. Come on, mainstream workers getting the appointment. What is going to happen with the nurses and doctors? So that is the reason why that we are questioning. The union is questioning exactly what the statutorization process entails. We need more engagement. We need to have an understanding so that I can explain it to the nurses and other workers, because other members of the health team are coming and asking me what statutorization means for them. So we just want to understand the overall picture. And no, we are not against any government policy to better healthcare. Of course, we want our healthcare system to be better. We want it operating at quality, not substandard. So we will support anything that brings benefit to our people, but we can't forget the most important resource, our human resource, throughout the whole statutorization process. So we just want to have a clear understanding what it entails. We know statutorization would have happened in Grenada in the past, but as the minister would alluded to the fact that health is very complex. So that's why we have to make sure that all our I's are dotted and the T's are crossed to ensure we have a smooth transition throughout the whole process. Not that our workers would be more fearful and demoralized and bitter, because at least we want to be able to, you know, work at our best, being stressless when we come to work. And that is our hope throughout the whole process.
In 2024, October 19th was officially passed into law as a national holiday. The day declared as National Heroes Day is meant to be a somber day of reflection, according to the state. But some bitterly opposed National Heroes Day as a national holiday, owing to its divisive nature. This issue was also ventilated ad nauseum and continues to be a divisive one in Grenada.
The government of the day decided that they were going to make October the 19th a national holiday. And we are very happy with that decision. But last year, were it not for our timely intervention again, when they tried to conflate the two activities, it would have gone ahead. And again, it would not have sit well with the families of the victims of October the 19th. And so, because we intervened and we had frank discussions with the Independence Committee headed by Dr. Crawford, we came to the decision, the conclusion that the launching of the independence should not be on the same day as October the 19th. And we finally came to a consensus and it was moved, appropriately so. This year, we have a problem again. And there should not be any problem. I mean, if you're going to commemorate the lives or memorialize the people who died on October the 19th, you have to do it properly. It is our equivalent of 9/11. 9/11 in the United States is always celebrated at Ground Zero in New York. It's never moved to any other place or any other location. The thinking of the government this year is that this activity is too St. George's centric, that many people are complaining that too many activities are being held in St. George's and they want to see something different. But I don't know if it is respect to this particular event. I mean, yes, that may be so. But there are some events that you cannot move around. This is a memorial activity. This is an activity where you have to celebrate it in the place or close to where it occurred.
Now, three of the biggest stories we covered in 2024 involved the murder of Antiguan Member of Parliament Asop Michael in Antigua. Michael, 54, was an independent Member of Parliament and a wealthy businessman who ascended through the ranks of the governing Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party to serve as a minister. Although he was well known for being a philanthropist among his constituency, he was also barred from running on the ABLP's ticket after various controversies, including an international bribery scandal, for which he has denied any wrongdoing. Police in Antigua and Barbuda eventually charged 26-year-old Alexter Francis 2 days after the landscaper was arrested and questioned about Michael's killing. And over in Trinidad and Tobago, fire officials there are currently investigating the cause of a fire, which caused the tragic demise of the Twin Island Republic's junior education minister, Lisa Morris Julian, and 2 of her children in December. Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Claudius Mitchell, the former political leader of the New National Party and now the party's chairman, announced to his executive that he will not seek re-election after more than 30 years as political leader of the party. But NNP's convention was not without controversy, owing to Peter David's leadership challenge, which did not go down well with Dr. Mitchell. The Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Southeast, the Honorable Emmeline Pear, emerged as the new leader of the New National Party after getting the blessing of the outgoing leader and a screening committee set up to oversee the transition of leadership from Mitchell to Pear.
It is what it is.
Well, but let us, and you said you have no clue as to why your leader has lost trust in you. But without mentioning your name, and of course we know who he's referring to, he can't be referring to anyone else in the party. He indicated that you were meeting with delegates, Mr. David, and also paying delegates, which some might say amounts to bribery. Now, Mr. David, on what basis was there a need to meet with delegates? And how do you rebut claims that you are engaging in bribery? Why are you meeting with the delegates?
You make the charge and then you assume it's guilty. You sound just like that legal system that I practiced some years ago.
Well, maybe I should have become a lawyer, but go ahead, sir.
First of all, I don't know who the delegates are. In fact, that's one of the issues we have. This issue of delegate count, because there is a mechanism that has been put in place to choose the delegates that I believe is quite unconstitutional. There are individuals in different constituencies who have been given that task. So I mean, I would be foolish to first of all try to bribe delegates, but secondly, I don't know who the delegates are. In fact, I have already penned a letter to the executive asking them that we need to know the list of delegates, because none of us knows that list of delegates, because the task has been given to individuals in each and every constituency. Now, I must say this, that the sister party to the LNP in Jamaica, the GLP, through its political leader, recently indicated, and I agreed with him on that political parties have evolved to become public institutions, and there needs to be transparency and openness, just like we demand in public institutions. I mean, the wholeness clip is there for everyone to see. And I would hope, because Jamaica does it, the Jamaica Labour Party does it, there is a list of delegates that one can go to. It's like asking me to campaign in the town of St. George, and I don't know who the electors are. The delegates are the electors within the NNP, and I do hope and I do wish that I can become aware of the national delegate list. Of course, I will know who is in the town of St. George because I'm in the constituency of the town of St. George and part of the mechanism. The mechanism is to have the branch and the executive and the groups to choose the delegates. But I will wish that we, as contenders in the elections next Sunday, will have a copy of that list so I can know who we need to speak to convince. And look, and this talk of bribery is absolute nonsense. Nobody's called my name, and I hope he was not referring to me, because certainly I don't know who to bribe. I mean, it's like, well, I'm going to fly over a constituency and drop a plane load of money and hope that delegates pick it up. It doesn't work that way. It's not. It's not even worth responding to.
And finally, as we gather around our tables this holiday season, we, the entire team at the Bubb Report, take a moment to reflect on the spirit of gratitude that defines this time of year. We extend our heartfelt thanks to you, our viewers and listeners, for being the backbone of what we do. Your support has fueled our journalistic endeavors, and for that, we are extremely grateful. Now, in a world where information is abundant and sometimes overwhelming, your choice to engage with our content is not taken lightly. Your curiosity, discernment, and intellectual commitment to staying informed have shaped the conversations that unfold within this space. In the spirit of gratitude, we look forward to the years ahead, filled with more stories to tell, more community to embrace, and more subscribers to thank. We wish you a happy new year, filled with warmth, joy, great company, the great company of loved ones, and great prosperity. Happy New Year, and cheers to life. Cheers. Cheers to the Bubb Report, folks. Happy New Year, everyone.